here's the final part of The Little Prince. So the last place we were looking at the main man. We're going to continue seeing the rest of the planets that the Little Prince visited. The next planet was inhabited by a drunkard. This visit was a very brief one, but it plunged the Little Prince into a deep depression. "What are you doing here?" asked the drunkard, whom he found sunk in silence before a collection of empty bottles and a collection of full ones. "Drinking," replied the drunkard with a gloomy expression. "Why are you drinking?" the Little Prince asked. "To forget," replied the drunkard. "To forget what?" inquired the Little Prince, who was already feeling sorry for him. "To forget that I'm ashamed," confessed the drunkard, hanging his head. "What are you ashamed of?" inquired the Little Prince, who wanted to help. "Of drinking," concluded the drunkard, withdrawing into silence for good, and the Little Prince went on his way, very puzzled. "Grown-ups are certainly very, very strange," he said to himself, and continued his journey. There he is. The fourth planet belonged to a businessman. This person was so busy that he didn't even raise his head when the Little Prince arrived. "Hello," said the Little Prince. "Your cigarette's gone out." 3 and 2 make 5, 5 and 7, 12, 12 and 3, 15, hello. 15 and 7, 22, 22 and 6, 28, no time to light it again, 26 and 5, 31, phew. That amounts to 501,622,631. 5 million what? You're still here? 501 million, I don't remember. I have so much work to do. I'm a serious man. I can't be bothered with trifles. 2 and 5, 7, 500 million what? Repeated the Little Prince, who had never in his life let go of a question once he asked. The businessman raised his head. "For the 54 years I've inhabited this planet, I've been interrupted only 3 times. The first time was 22 years ago, when I was interrupted by a beetle that had fallen onto my desk from God knows where. It made a terrible noise, and I made 4 mistakes in my calculations. The second time was 11 years ago, and I was interrupted by a fit of rheumatism. I don't get enough exercise. I haven't time to take strolls. I'm a serious person. The third time is right now. Where was I? 501 million. Million what?" The businessman realized that he had no hope of being left in peace. "Oh, of those little things you sometimes see in the sky. Flies? No, those little shiny things. Bees? No, those little golden things that make lazy people daydream. Now, I'm a serious person. I have no time for daydreaming." "Ah, you mean the stars?" "Yes, that's it, stars." "And what do you do with 500 million stars?" 501,622,731. I'm a serious person, and I'm accurate." "And what do you do with those stars?" "What do I do with them?" "Yes." "Nothing. I own them." "You own the stars?" "Yes." "But I've already seen a king who..." "Kings don't own. They reign over. It's quite different." "And what does owning the stars do to you?" "It makes me the good of being rich." "And what good does it do to you to be rich?" "It lets me buy other stars if someone discovers them." The prince said to himself, "This man argues a little like my drunkard." Nevertheless, he asked more questions. "How can someone own the stars?" "To whom do they belong?" retorted the businessman grumpily. "I don't know. To nobody?" "Then they belong to me, because I thought of it first." "And that's all it takes?" "Of course. When you find a diamond that belongs to nobody in particular, and then it's yours. When you find an island that belongs to nobody in particular, it's yours. When you're the first person to have an idea, you patent it, and it's yours. Now I own the stars, since no one before me ever thought of owning them." "That's true enough," the Little Prince said. "And what do you do with them?" "I manage them, I count them, then I count them again," said the businessman. "It's difficult work, but I'm a serious person." The Little Prince was still not satisfied. "If I own a scarf, I can tie it around my neck and take it away. If I own a flower, I can pick it up and take it away. But you can't pick the stars." "No, but I can put them in a bank." "What does that mean?" "That means that I write the number of stars on a slip of paper, and then I lock that slip of paper in a drawer." "And that's all?" "That's enough." "That's amusing," thought the Little Prince, and even poetic, but not very serious. The Little Prince had very different ideas about serious things from those of grown-ups. "I own a flower myself," he continued, "which I water every day. I own 3 volcanoes, which I rake out every week. I even rake out the extinct one. You never know. So it's of some use to my volcanoes, and it's useful to my flower that I own them. But you're not useful to the stars." The businessman opened his mouth, but found nothing to say in reply, and the Little Prince went on his way. Grown-ups are certainly quite extraordinary, was all he said to himself as he continued on his journey. You should recognize him from the movie. The fifth planet was very strange. It was the smallest of all. There was just enough room for a street lamp and a lamplighter. The little prince couldn't quite understand what use a street lamp and a lamplighter would be up here in the sky, on a planet without any people and not a single house. However, he said to himself, it's quite possible that this man is absurd, but he's less absurd than the king, the very vain man, the businessman, and the drunkard. At least his work has some meaning. When he lights his lamp, it's as if he's bringing one more star to life, or one more flower. When he puts out his lamp, that sends the flower or the star to sleep, which is a fine occupation, and therefore truly useful. When the little prince reached the planet, he greeted the lamplighter respectfully. Good morning. Why have you just put out your lamp? Orders, the lamplighter answered. Good morning. What orders are those? To put out my street lamp. Good evening. He lit his lamp again. Why have you just lit your lamp again? Orders. I don't understand, said the little prince. There's nothing to understand, said the lamplighter. Orders are orders. Good morning, he said, and he put out his lamp, then wiped his forehead with a red check handkerchief. It's a terrible job I have. It used to be reasonable enough. I put the lamp out in the morning and lit it after dark. I had the rest of the day for my own affairs and the rest of the night for sleeping. And since then the orders have changed? Orders haven't changed, said the lamplighter. That's just the trouble. Year by year the planet is turning faster and faster, and orders haven't changed. Which means that now the planet revolves once a minute. I don't have an instant's rest. I light my lamp and turn it out once every minute. That's funny. Your days here are a minute long. It's not funny at all, said the lamplighter. You and I have already been talking to each other for a month. A month? Yes. 30 minutes, 30 days. Good evening. And he lit his lamp. The little prince watched him, growing fonder and fonder of the lamplighter, who was so faithful to orders. He remembered certain sunsets that he himself used to follow in other days, merely by shifting his chair. He wanted to help his friend. You know, I can show you a way to take a rest whenever you want. I always want rest, the lamplighter said, for it is possible to be faithful and lazy at the same time. The little prince continued, your planet is so small that you can walk around it in 3 strides. All you have to do is walk more slowly, and you'll always be in the sun. When you want to take a rest, just walk, and the day will last longer as long as you want it to. What good does that do me, the lamplighter said, when the one thing in life I want to do is sleep? Then you're out of luck, said the little prince. I am, said the lamplighter. Good morning, and he put out his lamp. Now that man, the little prince said to himself as he continued on his journey, that man would be despised by all others, by the king, by the very vain man, by the drunkard, by the businessman, and he's the only one who doesn't strike me as ridiculous. Perhaps it's because he's thinking of something besides himself. He heaved a sigh of regret and said to himself again, that man is the only one I might have made my friend, but his planet is really too small. There's not room for 2. What the little prince dared not to omit was that he most regretted leaving that planet, because it was blessed with 1,444 sunsets every 24 hours. The sixth planet was 10 times bigger than the last. It was inhabited by an old gentleman who wrote enormous books. Ah, here comes an explorer, he exclaimed when he caught sight of the little prince, who was feeling a little winded and sat down on the desk. He already traveled so much and so far. Where do you come from? The old gentleman asked him. What's that big book? Asked the little prince. What do you do with it? I'm a geographer, the old gentleman answered. What's a geographer? A scholar who knows where the seas are, rivers, the cities, mountains, and deserts. That's very interesting, the little prince said. Here at last is someone who has a real profession. So he gazed around him at the geographer's planet. He had never seen a planet so majestic. Your planet is very beautiful, he said. Does it have any oceans? I couldn't say, said the geographer. Oh, the little prince was disappointed. And mountains? I couldn't say, said the geographer. And cities and rivers and deserts? Couldn't tell you that either, said the geographer. But you're a geographer. That's right, said the geographer, but I'm not an explorer. There's not one explorer on my planet. A geographer doesn't go out to describe cities, rivers, mountains, seas, oceans, and deserts. A geographer is too important to go wandering about. He never leaves his study, but he receives the explorers there. He questions them, and he writes down what they remember. And if the memories of one of the explorers seems interesting to him, then the geographer conducts an inquiry into the explorer's moral character. Why is that? Because an explorer who told lies would cause disasters in the geography books, as would an explorer who drank too much. Why is that? The little prince asked. Because drunkards see double, and the geographer would write down 2 mountains where there was only one. I know someone, said the little prince, who would be a bad explorer. Possibly. Well, when the explorer's moral character seems to be a good one, an investigation is made into his discovery. By going to see it? No, that would be too complicated. The explorer is required to furnish proofs. For instance, if he claimed to have discovered a large mountain, he is required to bring back large stones from it. The geographer suddenly grew excited. But you come from far away. You're an explorer. You must describe your planet for me. And the geographer, having opened his logbook, sharpened his pencils. Explorers' reports are first recorded in pencil. Ink is only used after the proofs have been furnished. Well, said the geographer expectantly. Oh, where I live, said the little prince, is not very interesting. It's so small. I have 3 volcanoes, 2 active and 1 extinct, but you never know. You never know, said the geographer. And I also have a flower. We don't record flowers, said the geographer. Why not? It's the prettiest thing. Because flowers are ephemeral. What does ephemeral mean? Geographies, said the geographer, are the finest books of all. They never go out of fashion. It's extremely rare for a mountain to change position. It's extremely rare for an ocean to be drained of its water. We write eternal things. But extinct volcanoes come back to life, the little prince interrupted. What does ephemeral mean? And here's our geographer hanging out. Whether volcanoes are extinct or active comes down to the same thing for us, said the geographer. For what counts is the mountain. That doesn't change. But what does ephemeral mean? Repeated the little prince, who had never in all his life let go of a question once he asked it. It means which is threatened by a minute disappearance. Is my flower threatened by a minute disappearance? Of course. My flower is ephemeral, the little prince said to himself. And she only has 4 thorns with which to defend herself against the world, and I've left her at home alone where I live. That was his first pulse of regret, but he plucked up his courage again. Where would you advise me to visit? He asked. The planet Earth, the geographer answered. It has a good reputation. And the little prince went on his way, thinking about his flower. The 7th planet, then, was the Earth. The Earth is not just another planet. It contains 111 kings, including, of course, African kings, 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, 7.5 million drunkards, 311 million vain men, in other words, about 2 billion grown-ups. To give you a notion of Earth's dimensions, I can tell you that before the invention of electricity, it was necessary to maintain, over the whole of 6 continents, a veritable army of 462,511 lamplighters. Seen from some distance, this made a splendid effect. The movements of this army were ordered like those of a ballet. First came the turn of the lamplighters of New Zealand and Australia, then these, having lit their street lamps, would go home to sleep. Next it would be the turn of the lamplighters of China and Siberia to perform their steps in the lamplighters' ballet. Then they too would vanish into their wings. Then came the turn of the lamplighters of Russia and India, then those of Africa and Europe, then those of South America and of North America. And they never missed their cues for their appearance on stage. It was awe-inspiring. All the lamplighter of single street lamp at the North Pole and his colleague of the single street lamp at the South Pole led carefree, idle lives. They worked twice a year. Trying to be witty leads to lying, more or less. What I just told you about lamplighters isn't completely true, and I risk giving a false idea of our planet to those who don't know it. Men occupy very little space on Earth. If the 2 billion inhabitants of the globe were to stand close together, as they might for some big public event, they would easily fit into a city block that was 20 miles wide and 20 miles long. You could crowd all humanity into the smallest Pacific island. Grown-ups, of course, won't believe you. They're convinced that they take up much more room. They consider themselves as important as baobabs. So you should advise them to make their own calculations. They love numbers, and they'll enjoy it. But don't waste your time on this extra task. It's unnecessary. Trust me. So once he reached Earth, the little prince was quite surprised not to see anyone. He was beginning to fear he had come to the wrong planet, when a moon-colored loop uncoiled on the sand. "Good evening," the little prince said, just in case. "Good evening," said the snake. "What planet have I landed on?" said the snake. "On the planet Earth, in Africa," the snake replied. "Ah, there are no people on Earth?" "It's desert here. There are no people in the desert. Earth is very big," said the snake. The little prince sat down on the rock and looked up into the sky. "I wonder," he said, "if the stars are lit up so that each of us can find his own someday. Look at my planet. It's just overhead, but so far away." "It's lovely," said the snake. "What have you come to Earth for?" "I'm having difficulties with the flowers," the little prince said. "Ah," said the snake. And then they were both silent. "Where are the people?" the little prince finally resumed the conversation. "It's a little lonely in the desert." "It's also lonely with people," said the snake. The little prince looked at the snake for a long time. "You're a funny creature," he said, at last. "No thicker than a finger." "But I'm more powerful than a king's finger," said the snake. The little prince smiled. "You're not very powerful. You don't even have feet. You can travel very far." "I can take you further than a ship," the snake said. He coiled around the little prince's ankle like a golden bracelet. "Anyone I touch, I send back to the land from which he came," the snake went on. "But you're innocent, and you come from a star." The little prince made no reply. "I feel sorry for you, being so weak on this granite earth," said the snake. "I can help you someday. If you grow too homesick from your planet, I can." "Oh, I understand just what you mean," said the little prince. "But why do you always speak in riddles?" "I solve them all," said the snake, and they were both silent. The little prince crossed the desert and encountered only one flower, a flower with 3 petals, a flower of no consequence. "Good morning," said the little prince. "Good morning," said the flower. "Where are the people?" the little prince inquired politely. The flower had one day seen a caravan passing. "People? There are 6 or 7 of them, I believe, in existence. I caught sight of them years ago, but you never know where to find them. The wind blows them away. They have no roots, which hampers them a good deal." "Goodbye," said the little prince. "Goodbye," said the flower. Ooh, we got a cool design. He's in the desert. The little prince climbed a high mountain. The only mountains he had ever known were the 3 volcanoes, which came up to his knee. And he used the extinct volcano as a footstool. "From a mountain as high as this one," he said to himself, "I'll get a view of the whole planet and all the people on it." But he saw nothing of rocky peaks as sharp as needles. "Hello," he said just in case. "Hello. Hello. Hello," the echo answered. "Who are you?" asked the little prince. "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" the echo answered. "Let's be friends. I'm lonely," he said. "I'm lonely. I'm lonely. I'm lonely," the echo answered. "What a peculiar planet," he thought. "It's all dry and sharp and hard. The people here have no imagination. They repeat whatever you say. Where I live I had a flower. She always spoke first." But it so happened that the little prince, having walked a long time through sand and rocks and snow, finally discovered a road. And all roads go to where the people are. "Good morning," he said. It was a blossoming rose garden. "Good morning," said the roses. The little prince gazed at them. All of them looked like his flower. "Who are you?" he asked, astonished. "We're roses," the roses said. "Ah," said the little prince. And he felt very unhappy. His flower had told him she was the only one of her kind in the whole universe, and there were 5,000 of them, all just alike in one garden. She would be very annoyed, he said to himself, if she saw this. She would cough terribly and pretend to be dying to avoid to be laughed at. And I'd have to pretend to be nursing her otherwise. She'd really let herself die in order to humiliate me. And then he said to himself, I thought I was rich because I had just one flower, and all I own is an ordinary rose. That and my 3 volcanoes which come up to my knee, one of which may be permanently extinct. It doesn't make me much of a prince. And he lay down in the grass and wept. I'm going to stop there. There is more to the book. Maybe I'll share it as... if you are interested, email me and I'll keep reading. Otherwise, if you want to buy the book and continue, I got this on Amazon. And I stopped at page 45. So there's about 15 more pages left, but I don't want this video to not be able to upload because it's so big. So again, if you're really interested, I would love to record it for you. Just let me know and I will follow up. I hope you guys enjoyed that.